anytime people put their, their kind of nerddom on display in a world that's not considered to be kind of nerdy. So when it happens in video games, I mean, and hip hop, people constantly, they'll tell me about it. They tag me in it, like, oh my God, J. Cole mentioned Kojima, or, like things like that. But, that's always good for me to see. Like when when worlds come together like that, I'm just like super happy about it.
No, I read your book last year too, and I really enjoyed
nice.
it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I started following you. I guess you were on Kind of Funny or IGN on a podcast, and I saw you there. Then I looked into your music and just your whole journey and stuff. But it's been really cool to see you grow and grow.
Thank you.
No, I guess I want to start with the book. Just I think it's really inspiring for anyone, not just someone who wants to be in music or in certain things, because it was kind of the same story as a lot of us. Like I have my day job where I do accounting and copywriting and stuff, but then at night I try to do more creative writing. I do improv. I'm trying to do like a bunch of other stuff, but it was cool that you were teaching, but you turned your music career, like your side thing, into something bigger.
Yeah, that was cool. It wasn't necessarily expected. It just kind of happened that way, And I think that's kind of the way that for these things to kind of work out is like not necessarily placing all your eggs in one basket, but, keeping multiple things open. Like my mom always says, multiple hustles, you keep your eyes open on multiple things and, but make time for the things that you love.
Yeah.
And you never know how that can work out,
I think I used to think it was about trying to find something you can do for work that you love, like it's the thing you love doing. But if you can't, or like later I realized if you can't and you're doing something you don't really like doing, try to find things you like doing on the side or at night, or have them be like your personal projects.
Absolutely. And sometimes that can be better, when the thing you love becomes your work, it's a job. So it's maybe not as exciting. So spend your free time and your spare time doing something that you really enjoy.
I also read Raheem's book last year, Sweat the Technique, but I like both of your book and his book started with like a lyric. Every chapter started with a lyric, which was cool.
Yes. His book was great for that. I was, I'm a big fan of his as well. And so I like the fact that he started off with lyrics. And I thought, I've written so many songs that surely I have a song that would pretty much go with any occasion.
Yeah. And in the book, you're throughout the chapters, you're like including historical events, whether they're U.S. history or world history or just like wrestling or entertainment history. But it's cool to give the reader like to see what time it is, kind of.
Yeah, I think it's important to set the scene, and then for me, I talked about how like each moment in history has been, or a gaming moment, I've tied things in my own life to those historical moments. So yeah, it was just an important, I think, because it helped to shape who I am. So telling you about like the politics of Philadelphia, or about, the hip hop scene and what was happening, or in the gaming scene, because these are my three worlds, coming together.
No, that's really cool that you put all the things you like into like one thing. But
yeah.
Like, I started to like, I love writing and then I love video games, and I was like, how can I put some things that are like food? So sometimes I try to do like, I had a food blog for a little bit where I was trying to put more recipes up. I was trying to like combine the things you love to make something cool out of it.
I've always thought about a food blog. I travel a lot and I love to eat things when I'm in new places and kind of blog my experiences with them. So I've always thought about it, like we were going to call it like random beats and eats, where I sit down maybe in a city with a person who's from that town who makes music. And we talk about their music. They take me to their favorite restaurant and somebody films it, like I still think that would be a really cool show.
Yeah. It'd be like the Jerry Seinfeld, the comedians in cars getting coffee kind of thing.
Yeah. Something like that.
That'd be cool. There was the story how you met your wife now, I think, that because of the Philly cheesesteaks, like you were looking for a good Philly cheesesteak and she had just But I told my girlfriend about that while I was reading the book because she's originally from Philly and we're in Miami now. But she is always like she only eats Jersey Mike's Phillies because they're the closest to the thing that she remembers from there.
That's true. That's a fact. Jersey Mike's is about as close as you can get.
Yeah, but that was a cool story. Just like it was all from a message board, and then you guys ended up hanging out.
Yeah, yeah, she was super cool, and I didn't want it to seem like I was trying to, make a move. It was just, I was just, it was a purely innocent place
Yeah.
that I was, coming from, and wanting to get a little piece of home, and yeah, so it's great that we bonded over like two of my favorite things. It was food, and then our first date wound up being like a concert. So it was food and music.
Mm, and I was gonna ask you about your music background and like growing up. What were your musical influences or your favorite albums or artists even, and maybe how it's changed?
It's definitely changed a bit. I grew up being like a super hip hop head,
Mhm.
where, I just had to have the newest rap songs, rap albums, tapes, whatever. And then I've grown up and appreciated some of my mom's music a lot more, whether it was jazz or Motown, soul, funk, other things that we listened to in the house, like on the Saturday mornings cleaning up, a lot of the old soul music where I feel like it was very unique to that time, and no one's really been able to duplicate it, but I think like there were just so many pure singers back then who were just able to express themselves and create some really really monumental music. I mean, from Stevie Wonder to the Temptations and Four Tops, Marvin Gaye, all that. We listened to a ton of that in the house, so now I listen to that stuff, just reminded of great times at home.
Yeah. Well, I've gone back to listen to older music lately, or I don't know, even if I find a song in a movie and then I go back to listen to that song and then I start listening to that artist, like all their like Sam Cooke. I started listening to a lot recently
Mm,
just because of the One Night in Miami movie. We watched it, and I
that's
was
a
like,
great movie.
yeah, and I was like, I know some of his songs, but then I went back and I'm like, oh, I know a lot of his songs.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Hmm.
just didn't know they were him.
That was a great movie. I love the conversations that they had, and they make me think as well as a musician. It's like people thinking like, and I've gone through it a lot. I talk about it in the book as well in a song that I've written called "The Meeting," how like the constant struggle between like being an artist or a musician who wants to make people feel good and make people dance, or a person that people want to tell them exactly what's going on and where to go, and how to get over these humps and these things that keep our people down. So it's a lot of pressure on entertainers, you
Mhm.
know because there are some people who look to them for entertainment, but there's some people who look to them for guidance, and like giving them the right decisions. It's why I think so many people are upset with artists like Kanye West. They put so much faith and stock into their opinion, that when they kind of lead you the wrong way, you're very like upset at them. you know
Mhm.
when at that same time you should say, oh well, this is an entertainer, so I probably shouldn't get my political
Yeah.
views and spiritual advice from an entertainer. But we can't help it. We grow up with these people. These people practically raise us, and so therefore we kind of expect them to lead us the right way. And they talked about in that movie Sam Cooke kind of going through that,
Mhm.
just being a musician who was just doing very well, making good money, playing shows for mixed crowds, and not really like speaking to his people or people who have been in his situation.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess it's the whole thing of social media now. Like back then, people didn't know about the musicians; they just knew their music, and now we know everything about everyone because everyone has to share either
Yeah.
their life or the life they want people to think they have.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I heard an interview with somebody, and they were saying the last good time in music. It was like a musician, and they were
Mhm.
like, well, the last time that was good for them was like early 2000s, because it was the last time period where you were able to put out music as a musician, and you didn't have to play social media. You didn't have to be very good at showing people the insides of your life.
Hmm.
in order to reach them. It was just what a record is at the record store today, and I'm gonna get it. But once you have to start becoming a character at all, in all facets of your life, it gets a lot more stressful. It's like,
Hmm.
now we want to see what you're doing when you're not recording. We want to see what you're doing when you're hanging with your kids or playing with your dog, or, you know, like, we want too much access.
Yeah.
And, I can't imagine, like, as much as I love Michael Jackson or Prince, like, I didn't necessarily need 24/7 access to those artists.
So what was your intro to games, your first consoles or the first big games you played?
Hmm. Well, the first big game that I played, I guess I was really caught up in the whole NES, moment of just Super Mario Brothers and,
Hmm.
and all that. Um, but yeah, video games have been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. Like, I can recall, I don't know, single digits at least, being like going to a store and seeing a video game and then wanting to go and play it, Miss Pac-Man or whatever, or there being a pizza store next to the supermarket my mother went to, and she'd be like,
Hmm.
go on over to the pizza shop and just sit there, and she'll give me, like, $3 in quarters, and that would hold me for an hour to just sit and play games. And so yeah, I've been definitely into gaming as long as I can remember. But I think there's always been big moments, and I mentioned them in the book, but I think, like, Super Mario and just the advent of the NES was just huge for me. And I got it later. I was a spoiled kid, but I wasn't very spoiled. So my mother would make me wait at times. So I just one day, she didn't get it for me for Christmas, and I just assumed I wasn't going to get it. And then one day, just a random thing, we were at a toy store, and I was like, hey, Mom, the Nintendo's right there. It's $99 now. It was like 99.99 or whatever. And I just didn't think she would get it, but she did. And that day, man, I came home with it, and it was like I won the Super Bowl. I was just
Yeah.
like, yes, yes, I did it. And it was such a great feeling. And I think that's where I got hooked, from there. She would always, every month, she would let me get a new game from out of the bargain bin. If it was like a 1999 game, I could pick it up. So, but yeah, like, there were always these cheap games. They were never really great games, but I was just happy to get new stuff. So yeah, I stayed with a bunch of games, but they were all like cheap, no name games that no one had ever heard of.
Hmm. No, I still have some of those. I dug out I have a lot of SNES games, but like a few NES games. But I found a bunch that I was like, I don't remember this, and I would look up YouTube videos and like see just 1 minute. I'm like, oh, I totally remember playing this game. So, but my sister is 3 years older than me, and she had the NES. Then it became mine, and then like slowly I
Nice.
became the gamer, and she fell off with the
Nice.
SNES and the N64 and everything. And then I know in the book
Nice.
you said how the Mega Man music was like the music that set you off. Like I could use this as like to rap over it and everything. And then you started doing the kind of the story.
Yeah, for sure. It was, and it happened at such a young age that, I didn't revisit it until like 15 years later. But at a young age, I was playing these games, and I remember pausing them. And that was the coolest thing, is you would pause the game. I guess it wasn't the pause. It was just like a menu screen where you could go and select your weapons, and the music would still play. And so if you got up and got a sandwich or did something else, you would just still hear the music. So I just kept on rocking to the music, like, oh, this is really good, man. And and then it just kept going from there. I was just like, this is amazing. Like, and it just made me want more and more access to this music. So I would record it with my little recorder next to the TV, put it all by cassettes, go to school with it in my Walkman. I mean, it was just like, I was obsessed with Mega Man music, with
Hmm.
soundtracks, and from then on, like, there's other games, of course, that really touched me with soundtracks, DuckTales and Castlevania
Yeah.
and Mario and Zelda and Metroid, and so I just, from an early age, just like really took on a love and a respect and admiration for video game music, because it was just so, like, unlike nothing I'd ever heard before.
Hmm. No, and now it's changed into, well, like they still have the chip tune albums, like the Celeste is one that I listen to a lot. but it's changed. There's a bunch of games that have more like movie scores, but I end up listening to them like while I work and stuff. And there's even games I haven't played, but I know them. I just like oh, let me listen to this soundtrack. Like the Pathless, I've never played, but the soundtrack is really good for just like concentrating and
Yeah,
working.
very good soundtrack. Man, I've been into the Persona soundtracks,
Persona.
and such a good game. And like I'm not really into the games. I just started playing Persona 5 and
Mhm.
it's really fun. But the music is just incredible. And I'm just like, wow, how did I never know about
Yeah.
how great this music is?
No, there's even I guess with that or certain music has come into like Smash Brothers with a new character, a new level. Then you hear like Final Fantasy, I never really played, but I knew the album. I just got into the music first, and then I tried playing the original
Hmm.
Final Fantasy 7 on Switch before the
Yeah,
remake came out. And then I did part of the remake, but then I moved to PS5, so I haven't finished it yet because it's still on my
nice.
PS4.
Yeah. Oh man, it's Final Fantasy 7. I bought that game like so many times.
Yeah.
I can't even I can't even count how many times or systems that I bought that game for.
No, I have a lot of friends that are, or at least three friends that's like their favorite game ever. I know one, he says he
Mm-hmm.
beats it like every year, and he used to bring out his original PlayStation to beat it every year.
Wow. Yeah, I used to do
And
the same.
then they just started putting it everywhere.
That and Castlevania Symphony of the Night are
Hmm.
probably the games that I bought the most in my life, and that I could still play to this day. And it probably just, it'll make me want to play all the way through.
Hmm.
Mhm.
No, and it's cool that now they could move everything to like future consoles instead of you having to bring out your old console and hope it works on your new TV.
Yeah, for real.
um, and then I guess I was going to go into like more of the merger between music and games, which we started talking about. I guess something cool that I like is that, or at least there's some albums you've done. You've done a bunch of albums, but there's like the Final Fantasy one. There's ones that you're just like telling the story of a game or of different things. You did the Castlevania one too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you heard that.
That's
Not a lot
just
of people heard that.
hmm
Yeah, it's just, that's kind of been one of my things. Like sometimes I'll make, what people call traditional rap albums, but then there's also ones that I make where I am working on just like retelling the story of the game, maybe
hmm
adding my own flavor to it, or maybe if I pretending that I was in it,
hmm
and then how I would respond to these things, you know. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing that, just kind of retelling some of my favorite stories.
hmm And there was the Stranger Things one is just like each song is just one character's point of view.
Yeah. I liked yeah, I had fun doing that. I feel like I had maybe a little too much fun with the Will song, we just we had a lot of fun with that.
But it's cool to be like you're watching something or playing something, and then you're thinking of, even if you're making a new story that isn't there, or just thinking of their point of view or stuff like for another project.
Oh yeah. I
Hmm.
think just having there's so many, characters that we only see one side of them,
Yeah.
they're a two-dimensional character that we have to bring forward, and maybe show a third dimension of like what would this person be thinking if they had to go through these things.
Hmm.
Like, so I think that's been a really interesting, fun uh thing to go through and just experiment with.
Yeah. um, I guess when I was thinking also while reading the book, how when I was a kid and up to college and didn't really talk to people unless like to people about gaming unless they were also gamers. Like if someone was there who wasn't, it's like, oh, I won't bring it up. Or but now pretty much everyone knows about it, or there's even just the nerdy stuff in general, like comics, because of Marvel movies and DC movies, and everything's more relevant to everyone now, or everyone knows about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting time, where we're like music, gaming, anime, cartoons, like all the things that we love, they're not as niche as we kind of
Mhm.
thought they were. Like so many of us all grew up with the same experiences, so we're able to relate on them.
Yeah, like I listened to the new J. Cole album and he talks about Kojima, but even a bunch of other like video game references in there, which
Yeah.
back then it would have been like, well, even
Yeah.
when Biggie said like he just mentions the consoles like I had or I didn't have these things, but
Oh yeah. That's a
like
legendary line. That's Super
yeah.
Nintendo, Sega Genesis, you know. And yeah, like because back then, I mean, it was special, where you had to be, like you had to be considered, a person who had some disposable income in order to have these games. So it absolutely like it's different now, but I think it was really cool to see anytime people put their kind of nerddom on display in a world that's not considered to be kind of nerdy. So when it happens in video games, I mean, in hip hop, people constantly they'll tell me about it. They tag me in it, like, "Oh my God, J. Cole mentioned Kojima," or like things like that. But that's always good for me to see. Like when worlds come together like that, I'm just like super happy about it.
Yeah. And then, well, I guess since there's like your concept albums that you're writing about games or movies or wrestling even, but then there's also your original stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
I guess what's the difference in the mindset when you're going like one of my favorite songs is Infinite Lives,
Mm.
which it's comparing life to gaming, but it's not like based on some source material like the other
Mhm.
stuff we talked about.
Yeah, I think by the time I got that album, Random, which came out in 2015, I think I've kind of found a balance, because before that, I was even in 2014, I was calling myself Random, aka Mega Ran. So I was making songs as Random that were like the regular rap songs, and then as Mega Ran, they were the video game songs. But I was like, well, what if I put them together? Like Mega Ran is me; it's all of me. So why don't we work on through the concepts of gaming, make a song that is not necessarily about gaming, and that's really what I think I discovered on working on that album, particularly where I can show my references, I can show my kind of my love and my upbringing from gaming, but I can also speak to people on a level where non-gamers will understand it and recognize it.
Mm-hmm. I know you've done a bunch of Kickstarters, and I backed the Live 95 album that I really
Oh,
like, but I got
thank
it.
you.
I feel like it came out really fast. I was expecting it to take longer just because I'm used to that with Kickstarters. And I wanted to ask
Thanks.
if the I guess if your process for a Kickstarter album is more like you have it ready in your head, or maybe you recorded demos and stuff, and then it's just about producing it, or is it
Hmm.
kind of you're going through the process as you're like, I have an idea for this album, here's the Kickstarter, and
That's a good idea. That's a good question. I did have a pretty good idea. Originally, it was going to be an EP. It was going to be like 5 songs. And then once the Kickstarter got funded, I was like, oh, well, I got to do more than this, So that made me start working on more. But I had the concept in mind. I had a couple songs recorded. I was pretty confident on where it would go. But I knew that, plus we had a tour coming up that fall. So I was like, well, maybe I could possibly get this done in time to have some copies for tour. And I was only able to get a few done in time. But yeah, then the record came out like right after tour ended, or maybe while we were on the road. I'm not quite sure. I think we were just ending the tour. It's like the last week when the album came out. So yeah, people really enjoyed it. I knew, I was working on an EP and it was just going to be something small. But then as I really loved the songs and the concept, I was like, oh no, this got to be bigger. I have to treat it better. And that's when I went to Kickstarter. I was like, I really want to do vinyl. I really want to do, what else did I do? Pins and all the really cool merch designs that I had in my mind. I was like, I got to get these stuff done. And the only way to do it was to seek additional funding for it. So I'm really happy about how it came together. We're still working on vinyl. So I was about to say, you saying that it came quickly is may not be everyone's opinion, because the vinyl's not coming until June, I think.
No.
And so a lot of folks are like, where's my vinyl? And it's like, well, records take a long time, especially nowadays after the pandemic. They've been all slammed, like I think everybody's trying to get this stuff done, trying to get vinyl. They said Adele shorted everybody, because she had this huge vinyl order from her label and they were trying to meet first day demand. But it's very rare that an indie artist can have vinyl ready on day one of the release. It just takes time. So we're still working on it though. And I'm very happy that everyone has been pleased and satisfied with the Live 95 album.
Yeah. No, the album's really great. And I love that you have Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam on it.
Boom, shakalaka.
Because I read the NBA Jam boss fight books earlier this year, and it was all about, or last year, and it was all about like the story of the making of the game, but also Midway and all the different studios and everything and all the fights and everything going on. But it was even, I think Tim Kitzrow was just like someone working on the game, or he wasn't like a big deal until after that. Like that's what made him a big deal.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
And then you also got Tim Hardaway, I grew up watching because I'm a Heat fan. It was him and Zoe and Muggsy Bogues to talk on the album, which was cool.
Yeah, that was big. I'm like, Tim Hardaway was such a big influence to me coming up, just such a great player who was like kind of very signature to the time period. And when the first Live 95 came out, small piece of trivia, Tim Hardaway is in the first commercial. The first NBA Live like commercial for Genesis. It's him and Chris Mullin. They're in the locker room playing the game, and the coach is like, "Guys, get over! You got to get out there and play." And he's like, "Oh, we are playing." And they're like, "The game is so realistic, and like you'll forget that you're not playing a game, And it was really fun, and so to be able to have him involved, we also did some cameos and got. During the promotions process of the album, we got like the Kembe Mutombo to say some words. We got Chris Mullin to say some words. Who else? Muggsy Bogues, a few other like legends, and that was really cool. So I've been, I definitely like I said, the idea of 90s basketball is something that I really, really hold dear. So, I wanted to make sure to do it right and have some pieces of that era coming with me.
Yeah, no, I grew up playing all the NBA Live games, and like I used to know every player in the NBA just because of the games and watching the Heat and everything. And now I don't know anyone when I watch basketball because I don't play the games as much.
Yeah, it's a little different now,
Yeah.
But that's true. But playing the games does definitely, it keeps you up to date on like who's where.
Yeah. Like if you want to be good at fantasy and know players, you should play the video game and then you'll know their ratings.
Yeah, for real.
And then the Black Materia album, I know did you remake it while they were remaking the game? Like was that part of the idea?
It was part of the idea. I knew that the remake was coming. I played it a couple years ago, and I guess I'm trying to think. I got an email like every other day. Like once they announced it, like fans were messaging me every day, like, "Hey, so you're gonna remake this, right? You're gonna remix it. You're gonna do something." And I was like, "Well, I wasn't really planning to." And they were like, "But come on, you got to do something new with it. Like if the game's coming out, you got to do it." And I was just like, "All right, I'm gonna do it." So I started working on some things, and I really liked the way it came out. We got with Game Chops, the label, to help us put some things together. We added so many different musicians because the idea was I wanted this to be a jump as much as the original, would be a jump to get to a remake version of the game. I wanted the original album to jump that many levels up to where it was. So, we're like, I recorded the original Black Materia in my closet. I didn't know anything about recording, about mixing, about making stuff sound good. I just did it. And so now I'm like, now that I know people that do really good jobs with promoting and with mixing and recording, I can make this sound so much better, like the way I originally wanted it to. So, I'm really, really happy with how it came out. So that was, a big milestone is putting that together. And a lot of people, it's the record that a lot of people know me from, like Black Materia for sure is that album that is pretty, like I'm synonymous with at this point in my career, which I'm okay with because I love it.
Yeah. And then I guess when you finished the original one and you would listen to it later on, were there things you wanted to change and then you finally got to do that?
Oh
or
yeah,
things you're
for
like, I
sure.
would have
I'm
done
like,
this
oh, I didn't
different?
say that right, or I didn't say a very, I didn't do a very good job with this line or this word or these songs. But yeah, there's definitely some, and one of them is really short on the album. This track called "On That Day" 5 years ago. It's really short on the original. I was like, oh, this got to be longer next time. The Turks with my guy Dale Chase, like he did a super good job on that. Like, so just taking songs that I knew that I really loved and they were like really short. Um, I wanted to make them longer, or the songs that I knew I had the perfect person for that could rap or sing on it. I wanted to make sure that they got a part of it too. So yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, because we see a lot of remasters of old albums where they're just kind of remixing the sounds and stuff or trying to make it sound better like it was recorded today. But it's cool to what you did was kind of like if you had a demo, your demos, and then you're like, well, now I want to make the real album and do the I want to do it with a team and like a studio and everything.
Yeah,
I
for
like that.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, and DJ Cutman of Game Chops was super helpful with that stuff. He was just like, I know who we could talk to about this. I know who you can work with this. Like, let's do it.
Hmm. And then you got Austin Creed to be on it, which was cool. I know you became friends with him from wrestling and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's a legendary, great wrestler. Also a nerd and a geek. Loves Final
Yeah.
Fantasy just as much as me. And so I'm glad he was nice enough to want to do the to do that.
Hmm. I know you mentioned him in the book and K Murdoch and Murs, but what's it like to work or become friends with people that you admired or you watched and like just thought they
Oh,
were
it's
cool?
unbelievable, man. Like I it's the it's one of those things you always dream about. Like, you never know who's listening to your music, which is cool, but like at the same time, you never know. And so when somebody tells you that they're a fan of yours, it's really unbelievable. And I've had that happen with a few people that I looked up to, which is really awesome. And I can't be more thankful than I am. Like it's just been it's a surreal experience that never gets old, and someone who creates, like when we can both look at each other and be like, oh man, I'm a fan of you, and what, you're a fan of
Yeah.
me, like what, like it's really cool.
Yeah, even to like go, I didn't think you would have ever heard of me because I've been a fan of you for so long, kind of thing.
uh, so now look, now we're mutual fans of each other's work because I'm
Yeah.
a fan.
And I know there was the thing, I don't know if it was the Mega Man developer or Square Enix or someone, but you thought they were gonna send you like a cease and desist kind of order, like you're doing this and we don't like it or we want you to take it down, but instead they were like, oh, this is really cool. There's like a story about that in the book.
That was definitely something that I never thought would happen, and I tell that story a lot on stage. I get excited about it. It's yeah, I put out this album. We just, coming from the hip hop generation, you just kind of feel like it's better to just kind of ask forgiveness than permission,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And honestly, if I had asked and waited for permissions to put out a Mega Man rap album, I'd probably still be waiting. Like they have to go through all this paperwork and, oh, let me email this guy in Capcom Japan. Let me get back to you with this guy. And it could have taken years. So I was just like, they're never going to see me. I'm just going to put it out. So I did that, and of course they saw me. And but they were nice enough to be like, this is actually pretty good, man. Like, why don't you, come and talk to us at Capcom and we'll see what we can do for you. And I'm like, what? And they were like, well, Comic Con's coming up in a month. Like, why don't you come to San Diego Comic Con since your album's kind of going viral? And I'm like, viral? What's that? Like I had no idea. And so yeah, man, it was just like getting out there and doing it. I think the some of the worst things that creators get caught up in is trying to talking themselves into or out of doing things or making moves. Like I have friends who be like, I'm thinking about starting a podcast, so I'm thinking about streaming on Twitch, and I'm like, just do it. Like, don't think about it. And I think about doing something really cool that's never been done before. And it's like, well, the longer you think about it and then don't do it, someone's gonna do it.
Someone's
So
gonna
you,
do it first.
you got to get out there and do it.
No, that's what happened with me in this site. I was just like thinking about it for a while. Like, can I do something with video games and writing? Or, but then it even from what it started, it's become something totally different now, or just a bigger thing and a bigger project for me, even that I'm doing every week and reaching out to more people. to try to get more like games to review or different things, which I wasn't even thinking about doing in the beginning. It was just going to be more opinions and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
You can easily talk yourself out of making really great moves. So sometimes you just got to just
Yeah.
do it and see what happens, you know?
No, because
Try
once
it
you're
out.
doing it, you're like, well, I have to do something this week, or I have to post a few things this week. So now I have to find, like, make myself do it instead of just thinking about it and planning for so long and never doing anything.
Yep.
um, and I think it's cool that you're like the merger of hip hop culture with like Japanese video game culture. I don't. There was something cool about that with the.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely they're both things that have really helped me to shape who I am. And it's awesome. Like when I've got opportunities to go to Japan, like
Mhm.
seeing how they still value a lot of their things as well. Like the things that they've created. There's Godzilla, statues up. There's Ultraman statues up. There's Sailor Moon advertising at the grocery store. Like I love, like they're very proud of the things that they've created. They don't just dismiss them as kid stuff. You know,
Mhm.
and I love that about it for sure.
Mm. And then what was it like to write the book? Like going back and recalling these stories of your life and trying to look within and find, I guess, inspiration and stuff.
Well, that was not easy. I'll tell you that. Also, like some things you think you remember, and then you really sit down with it, and it happened a
And it's
completely
totally
different
different.
way. Like I've had a lot of those times where I'm like, I talked to a person who was there, and they're like, "Oh no, this happened," and I'm like, "What? No, it went like this." So now I understand how that can happen, and you got to have like people to fact check and stuff because it could just literally just look different in your memory than
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
But it was nerve wracking, writing a book. I'm a first time writer. I've
Mhm.
been rapping a long time, but I don't know the first thing about promoting a book. I don't know how to, get like write a good book because I've never done it. So I kept just thinking about that. Like, what if I fail? What if it's not good? What if somebody, this is it? And so I hired an editor, and she said, "Oh, this is great. I don't think you really need much from me." And I didn't believe that. And so I hired another editor and was like, "No, no, 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 no. Like, I know how to write. I'm an English major, but like, I've never written a book before. Like, this is not a perfect book. Like, no." And the other editor gave me like a lot more feedback. And I was like, "Okay, thank you. Good. Like, please tear this apart. Like, I just don't want to start thinking like I know it all when I don't."
Yeah. No, it's hard, I guess, to did you just write a bunch of stories that could be chapters, I guess, and then like pick and drop some and kind of put it in order?
Yeah, I did that the same way. Like I've been writing stories down, short stories for like the past 5 years that were going in
Mhm.
this book. And so I'll just add to them every day. And I'm like, oh, this story has to go in there. And I just jot, and then talk to maybe the people who were involved with it and get their opinions on it. And then just kind of keep going from there.
Yeah.
But I think being home during the pandemic really helped me to get it done because I wasn't ready to do uh I wasn't ready to write this book for sure, but I
Mhm.
knew that I had time. And so it was like, this is the time to make up for and finish projects that you haven't finished.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I guess I was going to ask you about teaching also. Like, what was it like teaching during the day and then like performing and creating music at night? But you also have to grade stuff, or there's like homework for you too as a teacher.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, it's hard work. I worked from like 6 a.m. to like 6 or 7 p.m. sometimes. And we're grading papers, get the day ready for the next day, blah, blah, blah. But then, go home and chase your real dream and go hang out at night in the studios and ride across town and write and record and then barely get up to do it again, the next
Mhm.
day. So it was pretty brutal, but I always tell people like anything that you want to have, like it's worth having, it's
Mhm.
worth working for. So, and if it was easy, we just wouldn't, I don't feel like we would really do it. Like I feel like everyone would then be able to do it. And the people who are great at it wouldn't stand out, you know?
Yeah.
So if it were easy, everyone would do it. And so therefore the path kind of can't be easy.
Hmm. And have you had, I guess, former students show up to shows and come up to you after shows that you remember them or they remember you?
Actually, yeah, I've run into some former students in my travels, either at shows or at McDonald's or things like that, or on Facebook. And I would always tell my students, like, if I see you on Facebook, like trying to add me or something, I'm going to block you,
Mhm.
like while I was teaching. And so I just realized when I quit teaching, like I had a bunch of requests and things in there. And I'm like, oh, these are some of my students wanting to keep in touch. And that's cool. And so I've had people comment on my YouTube page, like, oh man, this is my teacher, guys, and things like that. And but yeah, it's been really cool, like seeing them grow up and go to college, have kids. They're my kids are like grown now at this point, which is still pretty wild to me to think.
Yeah. No, my mom used to work at my school as the bookkeeper, so I was always close with the teachers, and I still have my sixth grade teacher who I like text with, or she's always checking on me and stuff. But even the other day at the improv theater where I'm part of the cast, we had or I guess now it was like 2 years ago, one of my math teacher from high school joined the cast, which was fun. And it was just like I never would see him like that because he was like the serious math teacher. And it was his first year and we were sophomores, so everyone was messing with him, but now he's like being goofy on stage with me.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mhm. And then do you have I know you had a recent tour. Do you have a tour coming up soon?
Yes, in May. We just
Mm.
announced it yesterday. Well, I don't know
Mhm.
when you're going to air this, but
Mhm.
yeah, myself, Samus Rustage, and Richie Branson are going out, mostly around the Western U.S., and then we're ending in Atlanta at a convention.
Mhm.
The Generation of Miracles tour, which is based on a song that I have on my new album, Live 95.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I can't wait, man. We're in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, San Diego, Vegas, Phoenix, New Mexico, Denver, San Antonio, Austin, and then Atlanta. It's going to be great. But yeah, get tickets at megaran.com/shows. Might be my only tour of the year. Who knows? So
Mhm.
you might want to get out there.
No, I missed you. You were in Orlando like probably 2 days or just the week before I was there for a fest. I was in an improv festival like that weekend, and you were there on Wednesday or Thursday or something. So I missed you just by like a day
Oh,
or two.
oh man.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't get to Miami too often. We used to go
Yeah,
out there for a convention. Gosh, I don't remember the name
probably
of that.
SuperCon or one of the other ones.
No, it wasn't SuperCon. It's more like an anime convention
Oh,
out there.
yeah, we have a
Um,
few anime ones too.
gosh, I don't remember though. Was it not Onicon? No.
Or
The,
Otaku or something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't even remember now. Was it Mizu? Was it MizuCon? Yes,
Oh.
MizuCon in Miami. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's still going on. MizuCon's been around for many, many years. And it's one of my favorite conventions. And yeah, we used to go down there for that. That's like the only time I've ever been in Miami was for conventions. And I went for my honeymoon a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, as well. So I like Miami. Really nice place.
Yeah. No, I feel like we get mostly the big pop acts and stuff, and then maybe Fort Lauderdale or up north a little we'll get
Hmm.
the bands I'd like to see more. But then there's always, if they come during the week, there's too much traffic. So I'm like, I'd rather not be in traffic to see this concert.
Oh, I get
Mhm.
it.
And then I guess I was gonna do like a lightning round of questions just about what you've been up to lately.
All right,
So that's
bring it on.
what have you been playing lately? Whether it's on your free time or I know you're a streamer, so on stream.
Yesterday I just tried to stream the Mega Man X Dive, which used to be it was a mobile game, but they just put it on Steam.
Mhm.
So it's like a classic Mega Man X game, but kind of updated. So that's pretty cool. I've been playing. I'm a variety streamer, I guess they call it. So I do a different thing each day.
Mhm.
So on Mondays I play Mario, or play Mega Man. Tuesdays I do 2K. So today I'll probably be playing NBA basketball. Uh, 2K, which is then I do a my team where I create a team and build them from scratch and see if I can get them to play together and do well together.
Mhm.
Um, what else? Wednesdays I'm in the studio, so that's not really a stream day. But Thursday's a throwback, so I'll play something like an older game that I really love. Last week we played Battletoads. I died
Oh
a ton
yeah.
of times. It's so hard.
Mhm.
Um, and then Friday's fighting games. So last week we did Street Fighter 5 and that was fun. And before that, Brawlhalla, which is a really fun fighting game.
Mhm.
But in my spare time, I've been playing Ratchet and Clank for
Oh yeah.
PS5. That game's awesome.
I beat it
So
last year. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, it's pretty fun. I feel like it's a little long, but I think
Mhm.
long's good. Like, but for games like that, I would be okay if they were like 5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. It's a lot of cool stuff that like a lot of gameplay additions. I love a game that you could be 3, 4 hours into and they show you something brand new,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, okay, this will make it fun again. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, I didn't get in. I got into Ratchet and Clank, like the old one, when they announced this one, and then I became obsessed and I played it again right before this one came out, and then I played this like day one. Or I think that one was like, I need to get the PS5 before Ratchet comes out. Yeah,
Yeah, for
that
sure.
was the game.
Hmm.
What are you looking forward to play this year in 2022, or whether it's old, I guess, or things that are coming on the way?
Well, they've been talking about the Elden Ring for a long time. I want to check that out.
Mhm.
The new Horizon. I really like the old one, so I want to check that one out. Um, I mean, that's really it. I think I'll just kind of go with the flow. I've been really into Xbox Game Pass lately, so
Yeah.
whatever pops up there, I'll usually check out at least once.
Mhm.
Like it's a cool thing to be able to have those kind of games at your fingertips. So yeah, I've been a big fan of that. So yeah, whatever pops up, I'll probably be at least trying it for at least a couple hours.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like the Game Pass thing is cool, but it's also like a curse for me because it's too many things. So I'd like play one thing one night, and then the next night I'd be like, oh, now I'm going to play this, and then I just keep jumping from game to game and never beating anything.
For sure. I totally get that.
Mhm. What's a game you're always jumping back into besides, I guess, the Mega Man games and
Oh, definitely Mega Man. Well, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, as I said,
Mhm.
I was home. I was kind of self quarantining after I came home from MagFest, this big concert we did.
Mhm.
So at night, I played that for like 3 hours every night, and I still love the game just as much. I'm gotta come back to it, and it's a game that I can always come back to. Like I love the Metroidvania like genre of game.
Yeah.
Any game that where there's different paths to go through, different weapons you pick up.
Mhm.
Um, I love those games. So anything like that, I'm gonna totally be into it.
Mhm. So you played Metroid Dread then,
Oh yeah, I
or
love it. I
yeah,
still haven't beat it yet. My
yeah.
my wife has taken over the Switch.
Oh.
She's playing Animal Crossing, so I never get a chance to get it.
No, I jumped back into Metroid Dread now, but it's Metroidvanias are like, I found out since the Switch came out, they become like my favorite type of games, even though I've never really played too much Metroid. And this was like
Hmm.
I guess the second one I played because I played the one that was on 3DS a few years ago, the remake one.
Yeah, that was good too.
Hmm. But it's cool to play an actual Metroid, even though, and like see how it influences all these other games that I love so much.
Yeah.
And then what music have you been listening to lately, or maybe when you're, what music helps you? Do you listen to the same type of music that you're trying to write, the same genre, or do you try to listen to different stuff to get inspired, maybe?
Good question. I think it depends really. I listen to a lot of my own stuff, like
Hmm.
not necessarily like stuff that's out, but like stuff that hasn't come out yet, just kind of doing a lot of like, quality checks with it.
Hmm.
I listen to a lot of beats to write new things too. People can send me a lot of beats. So right now I have beats that are sitting here from some of my favorite producers, and I'm like, I got to do something to this. And so I kind of overthink it because I really want to do it justice.
Hmm.
But I listen to a lot of classical jazz, anything but hip hop when I'm writing. I don't necessarily like to be inspired.
Yeah.
too much where you're going to be like, oh man, I might say the same word or something,
Mhm.
but it's the Eminem while I'm rapping. It may just make me want to like throw my notepad away. Like I can't do this.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I listen to a lot of jazz, a lot of chip tune,
Mhm.
and a lot of not like non-vocal stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just to get me into a moment, something that I could play as background music that'll kind of jog the vibes, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Just have you ever listened to like the instrumental chiptune stuff and found a song that you're like, oh, I want to rap over this, like maybe Anima Noguchi's song or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's happened a lot. Like
Mhm.
I'm so into that. I've done it a few times actually, where I heard
Mhm.
something and was like, I want to put some lyrics on this.
Yeah. That's what have you been watching lately, whether it's shows or movies, or what have you seen that you
Well,
liked?
I've been into the Peacemaker show. I've been liking
Oh.
that. I'm revisiting Sopranos, so I'm watching that right
Mhm.
now, and it's still really fun. But I never watched it to begin with, so I didn't really understand what everybody was saying about it. But it's really great. I like
Mhm.
it. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Is that to get ready for the movie that came out already, or
I
did
guess.
you
I mean,
watch
I
the movie
just
first?
no, I didn't watch the movie. I've never watched it, so I
Mhm.
just some people kept saying it's the greatest series of all time. So I'm like, well, let me find out.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
in high school I watched the last season because we had a teacher that was our history teacher was always talking about it and it was on at the time. So we watched the last season, even though I hadn't seen any of it. But I watched the movie just to see Gandolfini's son play him, which was cool.
That is cool to
It's
think.
just
Like,
a
I
really
want to
cool
see that.
idea. Mhm.
Yeah, I want to see that. So I actually heard it wasn't that great, but a lot of people
Yeah.
didn't really like it. But I think they just have a lot of love for the original show.
Hmm.
You
I mean, it was,
can't touch it.
yeah, it was cool for that, just to see him playing his dad.
Yeah,
But then it made me want to go back and watch the whole show, but I haven't done it yet. Um,
yeah.
and have you read anything lately, whether it's books or comics or?
I'm currently reading Trevor Noah's book,
Oh.
Born a Crime, the
Hmm.
comedian. He's really great. He's got a great story. They're coming from South Africa, and like and I even see even in his upbringing a lot of similarities in my own. He was kind of an outcast kid, and got into a lot of trouble, and so it's good to be able to read stories like that and realize like maybe you weren't as crazy as you thought you were.
Yeah. Oh, and then a game. Is there a game or subject you'd want to write about, or you have in your mind to write about next, or maybe one
uh,
that you've had for a long time but you just haven't done it yet?
well, I can't say
No.
because I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to give it away. I
Mhm.
think my next book is going to be somewhere connected to a game or a like some nonfiction or maybe a children's book,
Mhm.
but it will be connected to like a game that I really love in my life. So I think that's going to happen, but I can't really say right now because I don't want to
Yeah.
give anything away.
Mhm. And I know you did. I think it was one of your Kickstarters. You said you made a game with the album, or you were going to, but I don't know how it went. But are there game ideas you have, or a game you've wanted to make, or you would maybe like your if you had like a team and like a game you think you'd be like, oh,
Oh yeah,
I.
I would love to make a like a side scroller platformer Mega Man type game for today's world. Like the new retro games are kind of in, so something like Celeste or something
Mhm.
like that. I would love to do that with my own characters and my own soundtrack, and I think that would be awesome. So that is still a dream one day. I think we're coming actually up on the 10-year anniversary of Language Arts, which is where
Mhm.
the album that I made the game and the comic about.
Mhm.
So there will be some new material based around that happening this year. That's all I could say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how does it feel to get to like, oh well, I made this album 10 years ago for certain things, or even longer, when you get to that
Feels
point?
weird, man. It's really
Yeah.
weird. I feel old. Like I've had people come to my shows and like, man, first time I heard you was in middle school. And I'm like, what? So but yeah, I'm like the OG now, which is cool. It's a blessing to be able to do this for as long as I've done it. So I'm very, very happy and thankful.
Mhm. Well, that's all I have for the lightning round and everything. But thanks for being here and doing this.
Oh, of
And
course.
I guess I never really ask anyone if they want to plug anything because it's usually just a game they're working on. But if you have your
No, just the
website and
tour,
stuff,
man. Go to the
the tour.
megarain.com/shows. Get yourself a ticket to the tour. We are all up and down the West Coast and a little bit in Texas and then ending in Atlanta. So
Mhm.
please come on out. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Get masked up, get vaxxed, and be safe and come out.
Hmm. And hopefully I'll see you in Miami or when I'm
Yeah.
traveling at some point.
Nice. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thanks so much and good luck with everything.
No problem. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Bye.
Likewise. Bye.